Here it is, the Constitution. Can I read a passage to you? Amendment 22, no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice. And yet you keep talking about Trump's maybe you should have this. Here,
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel, where truth meets sarcasm and the Constitution gets fact-checked in real time. So picture this. Steve Bannon walks onto Real Time with Bill Maher and basically says, yeah, Trump's gonna be president again. Wait, what? Yup. Despite that tiny little thing called the 22nd Amendment. You know, the one that says you can't be elected president more than twice. Bannon's out here talking like he's already booked Trump's third inauguration. And Bill Maher, he pulls out a pocket constitution like it's a mic drop, reading the amendment aloud, word for word, while Bannon waves it off like it's just a suggestion. This wasn't just political fan fiction. It was a straight-up clash between delusion and democracy, with Bannon pushing some wild, unified executive theory and Maher trying to keep the conversation tethered to reality. So, today, we're diving into this unhinged exchange, breaking down what it really means when a former White House strategist casually trashes the Constitution on live TV, and gets applause for it. Buckle up, folks. This one's gonna be spicy. Let's go.
Here it is, the Constitution. Can I read a passage to you? Amendment 22, no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice. And yet you keep talking about Trump's maybe you should have this. Here,
I'll get you to sign it backstage and underline. Look, President Trump didn't bring up running for a third term. Myself and others brought up running for a third term. President Trump is going to run for a third term, and President Trump is going to be elected again on the afternoon of January 20th of 2029. He's going to be president of the United States.
Okay, but the thing I just read in there, it seemed like there was no wriggle room there. It seemed like it was just, 8 or 10 words that said only 2 times.
We have a team of people that are working. A team.
How can a team do something about that? What? I don't care if the team is 12 trillion people. The words are still the words.
Bill, every day in federal courts, right now in federal courts, there's 120 lawsuits on what President Trump's doing.
In a striking moment of political clarity on Real Time with Bill Maher, the host read aloud the 22nd Amendment to the United States Constitution, an amendment so brief and unequivocal it leaves no room for creative interpretation. No person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice. Bill Maher wasn't making a legal argument. He was reminding the nation of something far more basic, constitutional common sense. And yet, even this clarity has become a battleground in today's hyper-partisan political climate. When Steve Bannon suggested that Donald Trump could somehow run for a third term, Maher responded not with theory or speculation, but with text. The words themselves were his rebuttal. The absurdity lies not just in Bannon's claim, but in the justification that followed. A team, he said, is working on it, as if a collective reinterpretation could override a constitutional limit that has governed presidential power since the aftermath of FDR's unprecedented 4 terms. Maher mocked the idea, and rightly so. It's not a question of nuance. It's a line in the sand, one that protects the republic from the entrenchment of executive power. This moment wasn't about legalese or procedural complexity. It was about the health of democratic norms. When political operatives begin treating clear constitutional mandates as suggestions, we risk normalizing authoritarian creep disguised as strategic ambition.
For his Article 2 rights on the unified executive theory. But he's chief executive, he's commander-in-chief, and he's chief magistrate and chief law enforcement officer. There's 100, and they're running to court every day to sue President Trump, all because the interpretation of this. The interpretation of this is open for interpretation.
How could it be open? Could I have it back? How could it? I'm sorry to be. No person. You would agree he's a person. Okay, shall be elected. He was elected to the office. That's the office of the president more than twice. Twice is once and then another time. I don't see what the team is finding.
Okay.
Steve Bannon's insistence that Donald Trump will return to the White House for a third term in 2029 isn't just political theater. It's a deliberate provocation aimed at destabilizing constitutional boundaries and mainstreaming autocratic ambition under the guise of populist defiance. Bannon confidently declared that Trump will be elected again in 2029, not hypothetically, not wishfully, but as a foregone conclusion. He distanced the claim from Trump himself, positioning it instead as the vision of loyal operatives like him, an intentional move to protect Trump from direct constitutional scrutiny while still signaling to the MAGA base that the movement has no intention of respecting term limits. The rhetorical sleight of hand came in Bannon's invocation of Article II powers. By referencing a barrage of ongoing federal lawsuits and cloaking his argument in legal jargon like unified executive theory, Bannon tried to paint a picture of constitutional ambiguity where none exists. It's a classic tactic. Flood the conversation with legal noise to sow doubt, even when the law is clear. But let's be honest, there's no ambiguity here. The 22nd Amendment is explicit. What Bannon is proposing isn't a reinterpretation of constitutional norms. It's a rejection of them. This isn't about legal theory. It's about laying the groundwork for a post-constitutional power grab dressed in legalese.
Bill, in 2014, you talk about long odds. In 2014, when I backed President Trump when I was running Breitbart, they said I'd turned Breitbart into Trump
Sure.
Pravda. Okay, the odds there, he polled at zero. Then later in 2021, after he got back to Mar-a-Lago, when Fox abandoned him and the Murdochs abandoned him, the Republican Party abandoned him, the odds were longer then. So our group, the MAGA movement and the tip of the spear of the MAGA movement, we've had long odds before.
You know what?
And we've come out winning twice. And we're going to come out, we've got long odds on this. We're going to come out winning a third time. On the afternoon of the 20th of January 2029, he's going to be president of the United States.
On one side, Maher assumes the role of the rationalist, the voice of constitutional common sense. He reads the 22nd Amendment aloud, not as interpretation, but as plain text. In his view, the Constitution is not a Rubik's Cube to be endlessly manipulated, but a foundational document with clearly defined limits. Maher's tone isn't just bemused, it's incredulous. He's highlighting what should be obvious. That 2 terms means 2 terms full stop. On the other side stands Steve Bannon, treating the Constitution less like a rule book and more like a stage prop. For Bannon, constitutional law is not a fixed framework. It's an obstacle to be reframed, reworded, or outright ignored if it impedes the political momentum of the MAGA movement. His casual reference to a team of people working on Trump's theoretical third term isn't just absurd, it's strategic. It signals that there are actors in the political ecosystem actively trying to manufacture legitimacy for what is plainly unconstitutional. This is not about legal nuance. It's about narrative warfare. Bannon's performance is part of a larger strategy to soften the public into accepting the unacceptable by pretending there's a debate where none exists. He's not citing law to respect it. He's citing it to bury it under enough procedural fog that anything seems possible. In Steve Bannon's telling, the MAGA movement isn't just a political coalition. It's a crusade. He casts Trump and his loyalists as underdogs in a war against the establishment, overcoming impossible odds in 2016 and surviving betrayal in 2020. And now he says they're ready to triumph again. Even if it means defying the Constitution itself. Bannon frames the movement as the tip of the spear, language not of policy or civics, but of battle. This isn't about winning elections through institutions. It's about storming the gates of legitimacy with brute political will. That imagery evokes a revolutionary spirit, positioning MAGA not within the boundaries of the Republic, but as a force meant to rewrite its rules. There's also an unmistakable messianic undertone. Trump isn't merely a candidate. He's a chosen figure, someone who will rise again regardless of legal restrictions. The 22nd Amendment becomes just another barrier to be shattered by destiny. This kind of rhetoric isn't accidental. It fuels the mythos that Trump is invincible, ordained, and above the laws meant to restrain mere mortals. Beneath the jokes and jabs on real time, there's a deeper, more unsettling current at play. The slow corrosion of democratic norms. What we saw wasn't a debate over legal interpretations. It was a confrontation between constitutional fidelity and the raw hunger for power. Steve Bannon's argument is not made in good faith. He knows what the Constitution says. His goal is not to contest its meaning, but to render it irrelevant by convincing his audience that interpretation and willpower can override legality. This is not an attempt to work within the system. It's a challenge to the very idea that a system should constrain political desire. Bill Maher, by contrast, stands for legal order. His recitation of the 22nd Amendment is a defense of democratic guardrails, a reminder that rules matter, even when they're inconvenient. But in today's climate, that insistence can seem naive when up against a movement that treats institutions as pliable tools of convenience. What's at stake in this exchange is more than one man's political future. It's whether Americans still believe that laws bind even the powerful, or whether power itself is now the law. The Constitution may be written in ink, but Bannon and his ilk are testing whether it can be erased with applause. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, or at least entertaining, don't forget to hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel for more fearless takes on politics, media, and everything in between. Your support helps keep this conversation alive and uncensored. Until next time, stay sharp, stay informed, and never stop asking the hard questions. See you in the next one.